Gather round, gypsies, let me tell you a tale. No, let's talk about Noble Ape Philosophic. Noble Ape Philosophic is a document that I wrote in 1997, and it outlines the philosophy behind Noble Ape, the introductory philosophy behind Noble Ape. And the first notion that comes from Noble Ape Philosophic is this notion of internal versus external. So the Noble Ape simulation originally was a rich biological simulation, which was external, and then it was a cognitive simulation, which was internal. And the external properties were space and time initially, and the internal properties were also space and time, but they were completely different representations of space and time. So if you think about external time as like a clock, and internal time is like your sense of time, these are two distinct things, basically, in simulation. And then from this was the early development of the Noble Ape cognitive simulation, which was the internal representation of space and time, but also had two competing methods. One was called desire, which was a notion associated with stuff in the future. It was reinforcing. It had movement associated with it as well. There's mathematics. We can get to the math if need be. That's going to be a future discussion with a whiteboard, let's just say. And the other was fear, which is a very reactive sense associated with things changing immediately, and not necessarily anticipation of immediate change, but the immediacy of change fueled this fear thing. So the combination of fear and desire came together and created the identity. And if you watch, there's a kind of rotating cloud-like thing that hovers over the Noble Apes, and that's the representation of the cognitive simulation, which has these two competing effects, fear and desire, which make the identity as a whole. And there are sensors and actuators which are plugged into this. The sensors are things that put stuff from the external world into the cognitive simulation, and the actuators are things that cause movement from this relationship. So that is Noble Ape Philosophic. Noble Ape Philosophic then goes on and talks about the evolution of language and societies, which come through the environment and reactions in this identity. And it's pretty well, I mean, I don't know how many words it is. It's, I think, about 1,500 words. It's not particularly voluminous. And it was a very well-defined initial text that started off the Noble Ape simulation and really did well for the Noble Ape simulation through to probably, I don't know, the mid-2000s, when a gentleman called Bob Mottram, well, actually just prior to Bob Mottram, because I worked on ApeScript when I came to this country in 2005, and ApeScript allowed people to create their own AI models, their own artificial intelligence models, and test them out in the Noble Ape simulation. But I think I've probably covered enough for one video associated with Noble Ape Philosophic, and I'll definitely include a link to Noble Ape Philosophic for those of you that read. For those that don't, I'll continue to wear the hats and do the talking. But for those that read that might be interested, I'll add a link to Noble Ape Philosophic from this YouTube page.